I'm Roxanne Chess, a pediatric occupational therapist.
And I'm Nora Bachman, and I'm a pediatric physical therapist. Right now, Roxy and I are trying to social distance during the COVID crisis.
So, if you have been to an IEP meeting or you plan on attending an IEP meeting, you know that it's an opportunity to advocate for your child. And so, we're going to talk a little bit about what you can do to prepare for that, what to expect just based on our experience.
So, one of the biggest recommendations that we have as therapists is to try and have frequent conversations with the therapist throughout the year leading up to the IEP. This can be challenging, certainly, given the schedules of therapists, teachers, and parents. But the more often you can check in and see what are my child's goals and how much progress is he or she making towards those goals.
You might want to get the email address of your therapist because it can be really hard to get in touch with your therapist. I know a lot of times OTs, PTs, and speech are working at multiple different schools within a particular district, so it may be hard to catch them. But certainly, I feel like having that email address, even a phone number if there's one for the department, maybe the PT or OT department, but at least that way you're trying to check in and you have it documented that you've reached out.
And you have some ideas going into that meeting of what has the child been doing throughout the school year? Has he or she benefited and made some progress towards those goals that we set up earlier in the year?
Yeah, absolutely. All of the IEP goals are things that are meant to be collaboratively set with the whole team, which includes the parents. And so you hopefully help set those goals in the initial meeting or last year's meeting. And so, as you said, you want to make sure that you, as the parent, have some idea of where they're at, because that'll give you not only a better relationship with the therapist and the team, but it'll give you some information too of to where to stand on and where we're aiming to get for your child with the new goals that you're setting.
And once that meeting does come around, it's once, maybe twice a year. So it can also be a ton of information and
Yeah.
a lot of people sitting at that table. So as the parent, and of course we don't forget about the student, but our children often are not the ones who are speaking up for themselves. We do want to teach them that, and hopefully we're teaching them by example. But you can bring someone with you to help you advocate. You can bring somebody to that meeting who is an attorney or not, to help just take in some of that information, slow down the process if you need to, take breaks, and just help process.
Absolutely. It could be an outside private therapist, it could be another family member, but that's a really nice idea to bring someone with you because it is a lot. And you want to use this opportunity to advocate as best you can, so having that other person can help you take notes or ask the questions that you might forget. It's not like going to a medical appointment where you want to have that list of questions and oftentimes bring someone with you, especially if it's overwhelming information. Yeah.
And you think you're going to remember everything, and then you get home and you're telling your partner about the meeting, and you just can't remember. There's also a lot of emotions tied into these meetings. It sometimes can feel like not a team relationship with the school. As therapists, you do sometimes receive pressure from the school. You're seeing so many kids and really trying to do the best you can for each child. That's why we got into this service. But sometimes you do feel pressure on limiting the amount of time or support that you're providing to a student.
It's a really good point. Just to piggyback on that absolutely therapists get into this work because we want to help kids. We want to help people and improve the quality of their lives and their engagement in school. But absolutely, I have a lot of respect for our school-based colleagues because it is a very challenging job to have potentially 50, 60 kids on your caseload and trying to give them all your best quality of therapy. But so that's why I know that you often mention about being the noisiest parent and being the loudest advocate for your child. That's okay. You don't need to worry about hurting feelings because you're coming from a place of love, and we recognize that. And so being that advocate for your child, especially throughout the year, as you had said, reaching out and making your needs known so that your therapist is going to be more likely to attend to your child.
And it's so helpful actually to get some of the feedback from parents so that we know what is it that you really want us to step up to do for your child? What else is really important to you when you are talking with your child and hearing the stories that they're telling you and how they're able to access their education? How can I modify my PT goals and my treatment with your child to make them successful during the school day?
Yeah, that's a great point of that. What's going on at home? What do we hear at home is so important because we don't know. We won't see that.
And the therapy that we provide as therapists in school is actually pretty limited in scope.
Yes. Yeah, certainly from the occupational therapy perspective, you'll see a lot of fine motor goals. So I do want to empower you as the parent to recognize that, as you may know, OT covers a really broad range of domains, of areas of function, from cognitive, sensory integration, gross motor to a degree, but certainly the PT is doing gross motor too. But your gross motor participation impacts my occupational performance, so my ability to engage in an activity that is expected in this environment. So for instance, Foursquare or playing during recess, that ability to engage in a gross motor way is part of the OT domain as well. And again, that cognitive, that sensory piece, that social piece. So when we're talking about being in school, one of those key words is access to curriculum. That's a key word that's going to help you because they need to legally provide access to the curriculum. And so one of the most simple ways that we see that for occupational therapy is with handwriting. But also we want to think about, are there visual perceptual needs? Where does my child need to be seated in the classroom? Are there accommodations visual perceptually to some of the worksheets that they're getting? And then also the social skills and the activities of daily living. If I can't put my coat on and off or tie my shoes or go to the restroom quickly, I'm going to miss out on some of what's going on in the classroom, which impacts my access to curriculum.
And one more key thing is remember that you don't actually have to sign that IEP at the end of the meeting. So you can take some time to review it, to have someone else look it over with you until you feel comfortable.
Yeah, that's a great point. And just one last thing that I want to mention is that the school system doesn't have to provide what's optimal. We're very lucky that our school systems do need to address every child who has special needs, but it doesn't need to be optimal. And so you want to avoid language like that in your IEP meeting. So you might have some goals that you know are for optimal development of your child, but you want to go back to accessing the curriculum, what is appropriate for your child. It's necessary and appropriate that certain modifications be made, a certain level of therapy be provided so that they can reach their goals. But just to avoid some of that superlative kind of language because they don't necessarily have to meet that.
And those kinds of optimal levels are things that we have a lot more flexibility with in an outpatient clinic or in-home therapy setting where you may have to deal with insurance companies, but generally there's more flexibility with explaining why this skill is necessary. Why does a child need to kick a ball? It may not be applicable to a job in the future, but it's certainly important and functional as a child.
Yes.
So we hope this has been helpful and that you'll share any questions or comments with us.